everybody, this is Dane Hansen at Jungie Lincoln Volvo Mazda, and I just did a review on a Lincoln Navigator, which is the flagship SUV for Lincoln, and that got me thinking about doing a review on the flagship sedan for Volvo, which of course is the S90. You can tell just by how far back I have to be to get this thing into the whole camera that the S90 is a huge luxury sedan, very limo style, and I did a little review of the back seat. You can see exactly how it makes you feel like the king of Sweden, so to speak. So I did want to talk a little bit more about the trunk space, since my last video got a little bit cut off about that. But one of the cool things I like is, unlike a lot of sedans, this has a really low entry point. So you can see that load floor is actually pretty low, which makes the opening nice and wide, easier to get things in. And then when you are in here, this trunk is massive from here to here. I, being 5'10", can't even reach all the way to the front. I would have to climb basically into the trunk. But pretty cool, gives you a ton of space in this big giant sedan. And then of course, even has a power trunk, which is something normally only on SUVs. Moving up here to the front, go ahead and grab the handle. Has keyless entry, but I unlocked the car with the key fob. Climb in here and sit down. I'm gonna go ahead and start it up because it is nice and warm out. You can see that 95 up there. Lovely June day here in Iowa, here in Cedar Rapids. So you're given a pleasant welcoming chime. Wait for everything to kind of boot up. When you're sitting in the driver's seat, the S90 looks very familiar to most other Volvos that you're gonna be in. You'll notice on the right side, you've got your couple of controls for your volume, your talk, and your maps up on the center display. Now that this is loaded up, go ahead and turn the fan up a little bit. One tricky thing with Volvos is they're so quiet that their fans can actually be a little bit loud relative to the car. Kind of a cool trick too up here, you see rear, you can actually sync the rear climate with the driver, but whoever's in the back seat, can actually run their own controls back there. Pretty handy. And then of course you can adjust angles and airflow, all those things, which are pretty easy. One thing I do like is that to control how much airflow you have, you just turn this little silver dial and you can see closed, open. Makes it really easy, real intuitive. Very Swedish in that sense, in that it's not very complicated, it's very high quality and very elegant. That's kind of a mainstay across the whole Volvo lineup. You'll notice here on the left side of the steering wheel, same as the Volvo SUVs, adaptive cruise, regular cruise, and then pilot assist on and off. And then you've got your adaptive headlights over there. Still has the Thor's hammer LED lighting. Gauge cluster looks pretty similar. You can push this button right here to turn the map on or off. They call that calm screen with no map. Makes it pretty easy. And then you have the speed sign recognition. I'm in a parking lot, so this isn't actually a 55, but as we get going down the road, you'll notice that that's pretty accurate actually. Another interesting thing I like to talk about, I don't think I touched on before, the little white battery on the right side of the gauge cluster. So this is a mild hybrid. It's got a really small 48 volt battery and a belt starter generator, which is a fancy way of saying instead of an alternator and a starter, it's all one piece. So there's no all-electric driving in this model or in the other Volvo mild hybrids, but when you're braking, it does use a little bit of regenerative braking to try and slow you down, save some wear and tear on your brakes, makes things work a little bit better, and you'll actually see an indication with that around that white battery there. Now you'll notice, obviously we've got some construction behind us, so my windshield's a little dusty. If I pull this lever, the washer fluid actually comes straight out of the wiper blade, or out of the wiper arm, instead of being sprayed up on it like a traditional windshield wiper. That's actually a safety feature. Volvo, of course, is huge on that, even inventing the 3-point seatbelt. But that is to avoid distracting you or obscuring your vision. So I wanted to talk a little bit more about Volvo's commitment to safety while I'm sitting in here as well. I'm probably not going to cover the rear seat in this video, since I did a pretty in-depth one on the back seat in another video. But on some Volvo seatbelts, especially the XC90, you'll notice, and on the S90 here, once it focuses up, it says since 1959 on there. So that was the year that Volvo, or an engineer working for Volvo, actually invented your 3-point seatbelt, which of course every car has now, because Volvo thought it had more value as a life-saving measure than it did as something to try and generate profit with. So they didn't patent it, and they made it available to all car manufacturers, and now it's a standard. When it comes to safety features, Volvo actually invented a lot of your modern car safety features. So if you can kind of see that little symbol in the edge of the mirrors, that is blind spot monitoring, which was another invention from Volvo. Of course, that detects vehicles in your blind spot and gives you kind of an eyes in the back of your head, makes you a safer driver. They also invented a couple of other things, including the booster car seat and the rear-facing car seat for children. They're the only vehicle manufacturer that uses more than one size crash test dummy. It's called EVA, which stands for Equal Vehicles for All. So they have a man, a woman, and a child-sized crash test dummy, which is pretty exciting, gives them more accurate crash reflections, and helps them engineer safer vehicles. Part of that is a system called WHIPS, which again pertains to the seatbelt. So if I was involved in an accident, that seatbelt will auto tension in 2 levels to keep you in a perfect up and down or upright position, because that is where you are the safest, and prevents you from getting whiplash or that kind of injury. Some of the seats also have a built-in absorber, a shock absorber. So if you have a really hard up and down impact, for example, if you ran off the road into a ditch, that way you don't get a spinal injury from that hard up and down impact. And then of course they had a lot to do with crumple zones. So from the driver's seat, in front of me, there are 2 different grades of steel. There's a really mild grade up front, kind of a medium grade in the middle, and then around the passenger cabin, so like in these A-pillars and in this support member here, there is called boron steel, which is a really high strength, hard steel. Protects you in the event of a rollover, doesn't flex, if you were like to get T-boned, just generally helps keep you safe. And of course they've got impact sensing airbags. There's a small overlap airbag down there as well. All things to help try and keep you safe. I really appreciate Volvo's commitment to safety there, and they've shared almost all of that with the rest of the industry. They go so far, in fact, that, of course, being headquartered in Gothenburg, Sweden, they have a special team that anytime there's a car accident within 100 miles of their headquarters involving a Volvo, they have a team that goes out like with emergency services and studies the accident to see how they can make it safer and how they can make it better. Really a cool thing. I knew that Volvo was hugely committed to safety before working with them, but now that obviously I work at a dealership of theirs, I really have a better grasp for just how committed they are. A couple other things I want to talk about and touch on. Just if you're not used to Volvo, coming to it from a different make, this gear shift can be a little bit confusing to some people, as can this start dial here. So instead of being a push button, as you can see, this isn't a push button. I'm actually going to turn the car off and back on. So with the key in the vehicle, turn it, and you'll notice everything goes off. Turn it again, the same way, say it doesn't go the opposite. You'll notice everything comes back on. It chimes at me to put my seatbelt on. But very, kind of a cool design, sets it apart from the other vehicles a little bit. And then this gear shift up here. So you've got park, which you push in like a button, and then you can see up there, it reflects it. And then this shifter actually always comes back to this position. So if I go here, that'll put me into neutral. If I go back, you see kind of the second click, and I'm in drive. And you'll notice if I go forward, 1 click or 2 clicks, it goes into reverse. And then I've done a breakdown on the Volvo camera. This does have the rear auto brake and 360 views in my other video talking about the XC90 and the XC60. But basically, adaptive guidelines, so as I turn the wheel, it'll reflect where I'm gonna go. I can zoom in on different views. If you do one of the side views, because the camera is actually mounted underneath this mirror, it zooms in a little bit, but it doesn't give you quite the same view. The rear auto brake, just something to be careful with because it won't let you hit anything. I went to back an XC60 up to the front of our building up there while we had some snow, and it locks up all 4 wheels like right now. Really gets your attention, but very safe, doesn't let you hit anything. And then parking sensors, turn those on and off. Those are the things that beep at you as you get closer. Google Maps and everything is all very similar. Let me know if this review of the S90 is helpful, what other Volvo models you want to see, and I'm going to do a separate video now from that back seat, since it's super comfy back there, talking a little bit about owner benefits across all three of our makes. Thanks again for your time. This is Dane Hansen with Jungi Lincoln Volvo Mazda.